Good thing you have insurance. The lady in front of you just called that Bernstein.
Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.
Now, here's Ed Bernstein.
We have more election information. You know, people talk about what are the important races, but some of the most important races are some of the races that don't get as much attention as others. Some of the executive offices, the offices underneath the governor, really are responsible for having an effect on much of your life. And these are offices like Lieutenant Governor, like Treasurer, like Secretary of State, those type of offices. So we're going to talk to two wonderful candidates today about two of their offices. Kate Marshall is running for Lieutenant Governor at one time, and at one time you were the state treasurer. I mean, so you have that financial background, right? And Nelson Araujo will be coming on later to talk about the Secretary of State, right? Which some of us don't even know what that Secretary of State does.
Very important office.
Right, but like, what was the most important thing a treasurer did when you were there?
Well, I was treasurer when we had the Great Recession. So the most important thing to do at that time was to make sure that we could pay the state's bills.
Well, that's a lofty.
And as the money was not coming in, right, as we weren't getting tax revenues, but more and more people were in unemployment lines, and more people needed social services, that became a more challenging thing to do. So the governor and myself and the controller, we all worked together.
And now you're running for Lieutenant Governor, which also at some level is an economic, you know, kind of position. I mean, isn't, you know, the Lieutenant Governor brings business into Nevada, right?
Right. And the Lieutenant Governor is all about economic development. When I was treasurer, I'd like to say it's family, friends, and finances, right?
The three F's?
Yeah. So you move to Lieutenant Governor, and it's also about finances. It's also about whether the economy is working for the people here in Nevada. And one of the things we're seeing is we can bring businesses here, but if we don't have the education system, if we don't have the workforce opportunities, then Nevadans can't take advantage of the businesses coming here. And that's a disconnect that part of my job is to make sure that we solve that.
And it's not an easy thing to solve. You've been a long-time Nevadan. As long as I can remember, the issue has always been, hey, we can't bring, we don't have the educational foundation here to bring in the kind of skills that some of these businesses are requiring.
Right.
What can we do different?
So Nevada, I think Nevada knows that education is the weak link, and it makes us less resilient. If there's another recession, it means that our own children, our own future is at risk because they can't grab those opportunities. So working on workforce development and education become a #1 priority when you're talking about the economy. So you said, what can we do? Well, one thing we can do, first and foremost, the people have voted for money to go to education more than once, right? More than once. 2009, they voted that the 3% room tax goes to education. They voted for the marijuana revenues, go to education. So the first thing we can do is make sure that that money actually does go to education, which is not where it's going today.
Right. I mean, that seems almost like, I don't know. It's like, why aren't we getting what we think we were getting when we voted for it?
It's like we're pouring the money into a cup that's got a hole at the bottom.
Okay, and you know, and I think that state legislatures, most of them, are determined to rectify that.
Absolutely. Right. When I talk to leadership, they know that that's the priority, and that's something we're going to work on. So first thing is, the people voted to put money into education. That money should go to education. Right. But now, what are our priorities, right? What are our priorities? So I want to talk to you about a program they have in Colorado that I think is a fascinating program. The state of Colorado said, okay, we're going to do a pilot. we're going to take $1 million. I know it sounds like a lot of money. We're going to take $1 million and we're going to tell all the high schools in Colorado, volunteer basis, if your kids, 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, if your kids get a certificate or a license that's approved by the state, we'll put $1,000 in that school's budget for education.
A certificate or a license meaning what?
Right, so like a certificate for electrical work, a certificate in business management, a certificate in healthcare tech, right? These things that Colorado needs, that Nevada needs.
Where you're learning a skill.
You're learning a skill, but you're learning a skill and you get a license for it.
Right.
And it's not made up, it's an actual license, it's approved by the state.
And I'll tell you, you mentioned some of these skills. We're not necessarily talking about lawyers and doctors. I mean, electricians.
Yes.
I had an electrician out at my house yesterday. I mean, it's a minimum of $175 for somebody to come out. You can make a really good living being an electrician if you have the skills. But it seems like a lot of people are just not going into those professions.
Well, it's just like, you know, at my house, my husband will decide that he knows what he's doing, and I'll call the electrician because these are skills. It's really important.
We can
right?
only change light bulbs.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I have to agree with you on that.
So when you have companies like Switch, like Tesla, like Zappos, coming into Nevada that are requiring, a little bit more, some educational background to work in some
Maybe
of
they
these
want
jobs.
an electrical engineer.
Right.
Maybe they want a civil engineer. Maybe they want a draftsman, right? Maybe they need a business manager, a floor manager. So what happened in Colorado is so many schools picked up on this volunteer opportunity that at the end of the year, the first year of the program, they only had $543 per kid because so many kids got licenses. And what you saw was that the students want to acquire these skills. They could still go to college, or they could go to technical school, or they could go to apprenticeship. We have amazing apprenticeships here in Southern Nevada. But we need our kids to be able to take the math test to get into those apprenticeships, right? And one of the things I want to work on as Lieutenant Governor is mending that disconnect so that when the businesses are here, they hire our kids, they hire our people.
And part of your job as Lieutenant Governor would be bringing in these outside, potential employers into Nevada.
Right.
Particularly in some of the industries that are offering high-paying jobs, right? Either whether technology or manufacturing. I mean, good jobs. We're not talking about, just do another hotel, because that also just makes us a one kind of town, just a hospitality town.
So education builds resiliency, so does diversity, right? If you're just on the same horse, right, then when that horse gets tired, you got to get off. So we need a herd of different businesses here. But when those businesses come, you have to engage. One of the things you have to engage them with is, okay, so you're going to come here, and maybe you get tax incentives here, but you're also going to do this program where you're hiring those kids out of high school, you're hiring those kids out of community college, right? And we have a public-private partnership so that there's a pipeline from our kids to your business.
Well, that would be great, because there you'd be holding some of the employers accountable. Because it seems like oftentimes we give out some tax considerations, some tax credits, and then a company comes in, they really don't live up to some of the things that they said they would do.
Right. So in my view, you have to tighten that a little bit. So you want a tax credit? Show me the job. Show me the good paying job first, right? That's trust but verify. You show me that first, and then I'll show you that tax credit.
How does the Lieutenant Governor's office network or work with the state legislature and with the governor? How does all come together?
So when I was treasurer, actually, when we were in the Great Recession, that's when you really saw the need for all the constitutional officers in the legislature to work together. With the lieutenant governor is president of the state senate. So they're the person that procedurally moves things through the Senate. And they need to work closely with the caucuses to ensure that priorities are moved in the correct order or not moved, right? You do or you don't do.
Right.
And in addition, you always work with your governor. The governor sets the budget, passes it on to the legislature, and then you have to work with the governor because people have disagreements, people have things they want to explain, things happen with the money. Remember, we have an economic forum halfway through that legislature that may readjust all the things we need to do with the budget numbers. So it's very, very important that once you're in office, it's Nevada first, and you're working as a team for the people of Nevada. All the politics you see now, that's for election season. Once you're in office, it's Nevada first.
Yeah. Do you enjoy working with numbers?
I do. You know, they have to add up, right?
Well, yeah, we hope so. We hope so. College Kickstart is something that you
near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. What exactly is that?
So when I was treasurer, I was in charge of the college savings plans. And going back to education, right? What is the conversation that families are having about education? And for many families, I think the opportunity, we all know that our children need a post-high school plan. But for many families, that conversation doesn't take place because they don't know what to do. It seems out of reach. So I basically opened up a college savings account for every kindergartner in public school in Nevada, put $50 in that account at no taxpayer expense. Now,
How does that work?
I took the fees that the companies from the college savings account, the managers paid us, and I used those fees for our kids.
Okay.
Now, you're going to say to me, well, $50, I have two girls, one just graduated, one still in college. $50 is not going to pay for college. $50 is not going to pay for much of anything, right? But $50 will start a conversation. $50 will say, what can we do? Here's an account. There's a little bit of money in it. What can we do? I would tell kids with their parents, I'd say, pizza on Fridays, and you can take that $15 and put it in the college savings account.
No, I think that's a great idea. I can remember when I was a kid, we had these saving for U.S. savings bonds. It was, of course, $18.75 to get a $25 bond. And we have these little stamps that we'd fill up in a book, and when you fill the book, you get a savings bond, right? But as soon as the first few stamps were there, it was, a motivation
then
to
fill
it up. Yeah.
Right. And then I also set up these matching grants. So if a family made less than $75,000 a year, if they put in money, we'd match it dollar for dollar up to $300. Those programs are still in place today. So if you have a kindergartner child, go claim your account at the state treasurer's website. If you make less than $75,000 a year and you put $100 into your college savings account, go get your match. Okay? So those things are still there, and really it's meant to talk to Nevada families and say, I get it, it seems overwhelming, but let's start and let's take a bite of that apple, one bite at a time, and we'll get there.
Because I have to say, our colleges are doing pretty well here in Nevada. I mean, UNLV, I know, is the most diverse university in the country. The law school is like,
the law school's
one
amazing.
of the top law schools in the country. Medical school starting. I mean, you got UNR is doing some great things.
And College of Southern Nevada and Nevada State
community
College,
colleges are great. Yeah, I mean, you just got to get the kids in there.
Right.
Thank you very much, Kate Marshall.
Thank you.
Good luck in the election. We'll be right back with Nelson Araujo.
If you've been hurt in an accident, turn to someone you can trust. Enough said. Call Ed.
I'm Ed Bernstein, and I've been helping you and your neighbors for almost 40 years.
When sorry is not enough. Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.
Well, we're going to talk about what the Secretary of State does. Nelson Araujo is running for Secretary of State, former legislator, right?
That's right. That's right. Currently in the Nevada Assembly, proudly serving as the Assistant Majority Leader, and now honored to be on the ticket as the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State.
And what is it about that Secretary of State office that interests you?
Sure. Well, look, for me, this is about making sure that we are protecting democracy 110% for Nevadans. And the Secretary of State has two big responsibilities. You serve as a Chief Elections Officer, and you're also the leading steward for the business community. And for us, we're running on a simple campaign slogan. We want to make sure that every eligible Nevada voter, regardless of party affiliation, has the ability to register to vote, cast their ballot, and then have their vote counted. There are a lot of opportunities for us to explore in Nevada. We want to make sure that access is available to all eligible Nevada voters. We want to make sure that we're increasing participation rates. That's important. That's democracy at work. And so we have been hitting every single county, talking about the importance of this seat, and then speaking directly to the business community and asking our small mom and pop shops what we can do to improve their lives through the Secretary of State's office, because that is the first interface that a potential business prospect or current business, interfaces with when it comes to states.
Yeah, because you start a new business, you have to become an entity.
That's right.
Say you're a corporation or a limited partnership or something like that, and you have to apply to the Secretary of State, fill out the forms, pay the fee.
That's right. And as you know, there are many layers. And if you are owning a small coffee shop, it can be very complicated to navigate through. So we should be doing everything within our power to help folks navigate through that process, whether it be by increasing apps or increasing push notifications or creating proactive programs that go out into the community and talk about the work that the Secretary of State's office does. That's important.
Yeah, and how does the Nevada Secretary of State's office fare with other states as far as being state-of-the-art technology? I mean,
Sure.
you talked about applications.
Sure.
I mean,
Right.
Are we antiquated? Are we there? Or in the middle?
Well, I think we have a lot of work to do. Look, when Ross Miller was Secretary of State, he launched Silverflume. We're still using Silverflume as our central warehouse for business registrations and renewals, and so there are a lot of opportunities there. We can take our existing program and make sure that we are revamping it so that it's not just up to pace with 2018. But we shouldn't be making it up to pace to 2020, and we need to start looking at what 2030 and 2040 looks like, because technology is key for all of us, right? And it's coming at us at a really, really quick pace. So we always have to ensure that we are competitive with other states, because what we want to do is we want to remain the top state for businesses to want to come to. And in order for us to do that, we have to make sure that the state remains business friendly and that we are doing everything within our power to make it easier for them to be able to administer and work and operate at the same time.
Right. When you watch national news over the last couple of years, there's been one election story. It's about hacking.
Right.
Hacking. When you look at what we're doing here in Nevada, is that a concern that you have?
First and foremost, I think we should all be very proud of our county registrars. I think they are working around the clock to make sure that all of our elections are fair and accessible. But I will always say this: there's a lot more work that we need to do. Real threats exist out there, and in order for us to combat these threats, we need to be ahead of the game. And so, what does that mean? That means that the next Secretary of State needs to be looking at how we're going to advance technology within that office, how we're going to protect the integrity of that system, how we're going to work directly with the next Attorney General to ensure that cybersecurity is at the forefront of every conversation. So while I have full confidence in the work that the county registrars here are doing day in and day out, we also have to be mindful that there's still a lot of work that can be done, and we should always be looking at ways to be proactive so that Nevada always maintains the integrity of our election system, because that's key, and we have to be at the forefront of every single one of those conversations and on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to how we ensure that every vote is secure, locked in, and counted.
The United States historically has had a problem getting people out to vote.
Right.
Is it the problem one of motivation that people have, or is it government regulation that that makes it difficult for people to register and actually vote? I mean, when we have early voting, we have some ideas that have helped over the years, but how do you see the problem?
Sure, both. On one side, I think we as candidates and also as peers need to ensure that we're doing everything on our end to motivate our community to understand the issues, be engaged with the process, and understand that elections have consequences. But on the government front, the Secretary of State office has a real opportunity and responsibility, quite frankly, to increase access to eligible Nevada voters. What does that mean? That means opportunities as it pertains to increasing implementing same-day voter registration here in Nevada. That means closing the gap between early vote and election day. That means increasing the hours in which folks can participate during the early vote process. We're very fortunate in Nevada that we have this 2-week-long early vote process, so we need to do everything that we can to not just protect it, but work to expand it and ensure that everyone who wants to participate can participate in our electoral process.
What percentage of votes are early voting?
Oh my gosh, it's I don't have the exact number for you, but I can tell you that it is an overwhelming number.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
significant, yes, and we know that folks love this because it's convenient. And here's another reason why it's convenient is because during early vote, we have vote centers, which is something that is now being introduced for the first time on Election Day in Clark County, where we have bigger sites where at convenient locations where folks can just go in.
On
Absolutely,
voting on Election Day.
That's correct. That's a big change for us this election cycle. And before we were all used to going to our local school, our elementary school, just a few blocks away. Now that's changed in Clark County. But what does that mean? That means that there is more opportunity for that housekeeper who is getting out of work at 5:30 p.m. and knows that the polls are going to close very soon, but can go to a relatively close location at a mall or at a shopping center and get their vote counted. So, those are opportunities for us to increase access, right? And we have to look at where those opportunities exist, whether it's with our tribes, whether it's with our underserved communities. We should always be proactively looking at opportunities to do so. I'll give you another example. Souls to the polls. Historically, in Las Vegas, we've had Souls to the polls, which is a really popular tradition. And this go around, the Doolittle and Pearson Center, which are two big locations for us, are not going to have voting available on Sundays. That hurts. That hurts our community because there is an excitement attached to participating as a community on Sunday and celebrating Souls to the Polls, and that's not something that our community is going to be able to celebrate this go around. And so that's what I mean when I refer to opportunities, right? How do we make it easier, not harder, for folks who are eligible to vote to cast their ballot?
Now, some of my children are going to school out of town. They'd like to vote.
Right.
And the absentee. I mean, how does one get an absentee ballot?
Well, you have to request it through, through the county, right?
Just go online and get it?
You go online, you request your absentee ballot. What I can tell you is that there are opportunities within the mail-in ballot process for us to increase access for our seniors and for our veterans. I think you brought up a very key point. We should continue to streamline the process for folks who are deployed overseas so that they can very easily participate in the process here in Nevada. And we still have some changes to make, and we have to make some significant changes for the folks that get back just in time to cast their ballot, and that's why same-day voter registration is so critical.
Do you have any ideas on how we can help seniors and disabled people be able to vote?
Sure. Well, look, absentee ballot ballots are key, making sure that they are accessible to
but
folks.
it's difficult. If you're
Sure.
94 years old and maybe you don't have a computer to request a ballot from your county.
And you can call as well to make that request as well. But I do agree with you that we can be a lot more proactive, and we can go out into our senior centers and inform our seniors and our community, our community at large, that these opportunities exist, and that's a responsibility that falls on the Secretary of State, because that's our job, right? As a Chief Elections Officer, we should be looking to increase participation and also maintain the integrity of our election system at the same time.
I wanted to ask you about something else. This year we have a couple of questions, ballot questions, right, that are so complex that I got to tell you, I don't know which way I'm going on question 3. It's you look at these commercials, it's very complex. You read the actual question and its meaning, and it's complicated. So if I am not that well versed in English, if I'm Latino or speak an Asian language. I know we have some resources in the state that do translate, but not for many languages and not in all the counties.
Right. And look, we're in Nevada, right? We are all very proud to live in an extremely diverse state, and that is something that we should celebrate. But with that, we also need to make sure that we are, as you mentioned, ensuring that everyone feels fully equipped and prepared to be able to participate in that process. So what does that mean? That means that we still have a lot of more work to do in terms of making sure that across Nevada, folks have access to different language options when they go into that ballot box. That also means that we have to do a lot more work in terms of finding integral members of the community that can go out into our communities and talk to everyone and help them understand the importance of participating in the election process, and not just electing folks, but also participating in the ballot question portion of that race. And that also comes with the responsibility of making sure that they can comprehend and understand the issue before they go into that ballot box and cast their ballot. And that means that we just have to do a lot more work to ensure that we are adding additional languages, and that we are proactively going out into the communities and looking for opportunities to educate everyone about all the ballot initiatives that are up, all the seats that are up, and making sure that first and foremost that they participate in the process, regardless of party affiliation. This should have nothing to do with politics. This is all about making sure that we are all participating and electing folks or supporting measures that are going to help our state, not hurt our state.
Right. I mean, so there's a lot of issues that people don't think about when it comes to voting on those ballots, and of course, I mean, you've explained. Thank you for about some of the processes to make business opportunities easier to come to Nevada. So I mean, the Secretary of State's office is a hugely important office, and your election is really important. So thank you for your energy.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate
Nelson
it.
Araujo, good luck.
Thank you.
And next week, more election information.
Good thing you have insurance. The lady in front of you just called that Bernstein.
Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.